Well, welcome back. It's Hawkeye, and you are now in Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And this is now where I'm going to talk about my favorite horror films of particular years. And I'm going to start in 1980, the year that I was born, and take my pick my top 10 horror films of that particular year. Yeah, but I'm going to start um, my list and my first horror review with William Lustig's Maniac. It was released, from what I can tell or read, there was supposed to be a midnight screening at the Cannes Film Festival on May the 10th, 1980. It wasn't actually released till theaters or in New York City until January the 30th, 1981. But I'm going to put it in 1980 because it's kind of set. That's the year it was released, and it may have played at a film festival in that year. So, whatever. It's 1980. Now, as I said, it was directed by William Lustig, who went on to direct Maniac Cop 1, 2, and 3. No relation to this movie. I have seen the first Maniac Cop a long time ago. I love the cast. I need to see those movies again. I think I only saw the first one, but he did direct three of those films as well after making this film here. Now, what makes this film work straight up is Joe Spinell. He's the star of the film. He actually was one of the executive producers of the film. Uh, even did the story for the film, and was one of the co-writers of the screenplay. So it's a real one-man show on screen of him. He is the maniac, but he puts on an excellent performance, and he was certainly a character actor, and this would probably be the role of his career because he um, was the star of a film for the first time, and it really works. Now, when this film was released, there were a lot of bad reviews of this film due to its brutality and its subject matter. It's not for everybody, but like it's a horror film, so you could probably say that about a lot of horror movies. But it's definitely a more brutal, gory slasher flick. But I think it really works and it's really good. So the writers of the film, there's Joe Spinell and a C.A. Rosenberg. This was the only screenplay that person ever wrote. So now the film was produced by William Lustig along with Andrew Garone. Spinell, as I said, was an executive producer along with Judd Hamilton. And the associate producer of the film was John Packard. And interestingly, I didn't catch it on the first couple times I saw it. I swear he uses that name when the main character uh, he takes a prostitute to a hotel. He uses that name to get a hotel room. So that's kind of funny in my opinion. Now, this was definitely a low budget film. It had a budget of only $350,000, and Lustig, Garoni, as well as Spinell, they actually all had their own money in the film until Judd Hamilton got on the project and was able to get much more money needed in order for this to be filmed. And interestingly, his wife at the time was, she's also in the film, is the very, very, did I say very? Beautiful Caroline Munro. She plays the main female, and that was her husband, so she was able to get a main role in this film at the same time. Now, the film at the box office was able to rake in 10 million bucks. That's exceptional on the budget that went into the film. In today's money, that would be just over 33 million bucks. Um, but definitely when you look at the budget of not even $500,000, being able to bring in 10 million upon that, that's a very successful horror film at the box office. And when it was released to the box offices or like to the theaters, because I'll show you, I have the film, excuse me, on DVD. Uh, I didn't see this film until about a year ago. Then I went out. I said, okay, I got to see this flick. I went out and I bought it, and I've seen it a few times now over the past year. Um, as well as I've seen there's a short sequel and a remake. I've seen both of those as well. I'm going to give a review for those two films as well. But on the DVD I have, they have a as well like a documentary on Joe Spinell himself. And unfortunately, he passed away when he was 52 years old. He wasn't very old, but man, I remember him from Rocky. Uh, he was a big character in that. And hey, he was in the best Rocky movies, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. They were the best Rockies, in my opinion. He was also in The Godfather, Taxi Driver. He did a lot of stuff with early Sylvester Stallone films. He worked with him, including Nighthawks as well, was another one he was in with Stallone. But I found out in watching that documentary on him, he was a very interesting dude who definitely marched to the beat of his own drummer. He was an actor, but he was self-taught. He didn't go to any classes or anything. It was all just from him watching film and watching other actors. Other actors in the interviews as well just sort of said, some actors you can't talk to them or they're very like focused and everything. And he's like over in the corner shooting craps, and then just you need him, he's there, he's on, bang, he's just in the character. Uh, so it's kind of interesting information about him. And another fact about him as well, I found out watching the documentary is at the time, and it may have been during the time Maniac was being made, he was in fact married to a porn star. Her name was Jean Jennings. So just to give you like a real quick synopsis of the story, it's about Spinell. He's an extremely troubled and ultimately extremely violent man. He's named Frank Zito. Now, this isn't the same Frank Zito that went on to make The Prowler or Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which I may review those films as well. And he even directed some Chuck Norris movies, like Missing in Action. But no, totally different guy. This is a different Frank Zito. Um, but he stalks women or he zeroes in on women and he kills them. And this got people rather hot at the time when this film was released, as they thought this was just really just watching a serial killer stalk and kill women and like how brutal it was because of that subject matter. And then in the end, he ends up scalping them and placing these scalps on mannequins he has in his own apartment, his own laying in bed next to him. Very interesting, very screwed up character. And Spinell puts in a great performance that really I cannot take my eyes off of him when he's in uh, doing this role because he's so messed up. And because Spinell proves in this film that character actors, when given the chance in a starring role like this, they as well can carry a picture on their own if they're a great enough actor, like Joe Spinella is here. And he does a marvelous job. And this is his baby. This is his film. As I said, he starred, produced, and wrote this film. Now, as I said as well, Carolyn Monroe is in this film, and I remember her from The Spy Who Loved Me, the great Roger Moore James Bond film that would have been a few years before this, but I remember her from that film. And in this, she plays a quite a successful photographer who actually also likes to wear leather. But Zito ends up zeroing in on her she's the next victim. After you've seen him go through like three or four or five different victims, he comes to her. She's the next one that he's zeroing in on. So she actually doesn't show up till maybe halfway through the film. And when she's there um, as she's being set up as the next victim. But one thing that's very cool about this film is how it is a very single-minded film. It is so absolutely focused on Frank Zito, which is totally fine because there's no subplots or multiple alleyways to walk down while watching this film. You're just transfixed on Frank Zito and the victims he has in this film, and certainly um, the scenes where he's stalking his victims. Yeah, they're creepy, and he just does a great job in that role as a serial killer, and isn't just sort of this. I mean, yeah, he does that, but he's not just this brainless heaving mass that kills women. And you definitely get a deeper look into his mind and how messed up it is. And as well, the film really is just going kill to kill. In between, you see his reaction to the people or the newspapers or the TV reporters talking about this serial killer, this maniac in the vicinity, killing these innocent people, along with putting scalps on his mannequins and like laying next to them, and obviously is sexually aroused by these mannequins or the whole act that he's doing, which is just so messed up. But is so single minded on Zito that at the end of the film, when he tries to kill Monroe, I believe her name is Anna, he's unable to get her, unable to kill her. Her character is totally just shoved out of the way, or I don't want to say shoved out of the way. It's just your focus is on Zito. Your focus is on what happens now to this guy, and you see him, and really a great ending with the his own victims that he has, the mannequins in his apartment turn into the uh, victims that he's had, and they get their vengeance on him. Um, in a total bloodbath of an ending that uh, really I look at as that's like the sicknesses of his mind is really just turning the engines really, and he's just totally screwed up now. Until then, the police find him and believe he's dead, laying on his bed, for only for his eyes to open and say, "Well, he's not dead." Now, the music in the film is done by Jay Chataway. It's great, and this is actually his first film score he ever did, and it's great. It's very, it's not layered or anything, but it's just it blends wonderfully to what you're seeing. He later did music for a few different Star Trek shows, as well as Silver Bullet, a very good 80s werewolf movie as well that I'm pretty sure I'll review once I get to 1985 when that film was released. But definitely with Chataway's music and Spinell's performance, to go along with Lustig's direction, the scenes involving Zito stalking his victims, they're really good and they're very effective. Um, Lustig is not really just wanting to breeze through these scenes to like make the bodies pile up or get this huge body count. What he's doing there is he's extending the scenes. He's creating tension. So we definitely come to learn in watching the film that with Frank, his madness definitely is stemming from abuse he was under, given to him from his mother, that he seems to have this undying love and regard for. But when you get into his character a little bit more, it's you understand she definitely abused him and may have definitely led the way to this horrible man. Now, the effects to the film were done by Tom Savini, and he does a great job in this film. Uh, I'm going to be doing another uh, film of 1980 that he also did the effects for in Friday the 13th. But this is definitely a time where Savini was making a name for himself in these low budget horror films. And there is one scene um, that is infamous with this film. I would say it's the definitely the one that sticks with you the most, and that's the scene that he was in himself. He's actually has a starring role in this. He plays like a douchebag that just wants to get laid in his back seat with this woman. But Zito shows up and jumps on top of the hood of the car with a double barrel shotgun and shoots them through the windshield. It's a brutal scene, and I must say, Savini must have had a wonderful time doing this as he's more or less killing himself off with these effects. And as well as I've found out, that scene they didn't even have permits for. So it was Savini himself who was playing that character that jumped up on the hood and shot through the windshield. And then once they did that, they ran like hell because they didn't have permits in order to do that. So it was guerrilla style filmmaking going on. And hey, you come to learn that happens a lot in low budget films where you have to sometimes you don't play by the rules. Now, one thing I definitely like about this film is it's set in New York City, but you're seeing New York City of 19 late 79, early 1980. So it's definitely of a time that is no longer. It's a different New York City than you would see today in certain films. Some of the settings, and I love that when you get some of that old New York City that is no longer there. Like I don't know if that was 42nd Street or not, but it certainly looks like it. Um, because it's definitely dirty and grimy New York City, which at this time when through the 70s and this time when films were coming out in New York City, they did definitely have that look, like the dirty, grimy look that they were going for. Now, there's a one scene that just watching it this time, I was like, I really like that scene. It's where Frank and Anna are sitting having dinner together at a restaurant. It's like their first date together. And it's a really good scene because it's like one nice long take of a conversation they're having together. And you also see Frank's got some charisma, something to him. He's not just this um, crazed maniac. Like he's got something else going on for him, which is makes him even scarier because he's drawing her in. But it's a nice long scene, and the camera kind of rotates or circles around the table while they have this conversation. And I really like that scene. I thought it was quite effective and worked very well. Now, incredibly, when this film was released, Lustig did not, or they did not send this to the MPAA for a rating because they knew the sucker was going to be rated X. And they, from what I know, like if that happened, this might have ended up being shown in porno houses and those type of theaters. And that's not really the audience that we're looking for. But so they released this unrated and didn't get a rating from the MPAA. Like on my DVD, it says unrated. There was no rating to this film, and I find that quite interesting that they decided to go that path rather than sending it to the MPAA because there would have been cuts made, and Lustig didn't want to do that. This was the film he wanted to make and release to the public. And as I said earlier, there were bad reviews to this film when it initially came out. Since then, it's got a cult following. There definitely must be people that love this film out there. But I think like both Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, both of them kind of said the same thing from what I've read. That they walked out of the film like 20 minutes or 30 minutes into the film. And I'm like, okay, so you don't really have a review for the film because you didn't actually watch it, but they were horrified for it. They thought it was a brutal film and nothing that you should want to watch. As well as Leonard Maltin. He gave this film a bomb rating. That's the worst rating he would give to films, and even called this a sickening film. So, as I said, this film isn't for everybody, but it's a horror film. And if you're a horror fan, if you love horror films, and if you love slashers, you gotta see this film. You gotta watch it. And I thought it was quite a good film. As well, this was the first film ever to be banished in West Germany. Get out of here, you're banished. But anyways, I, as I said, I think this is a pretty good slasher. Um, and hey, this was during the slasher craze. Like um, Halloween sort of opened it up, but like Friday the 13th came along and just um, after that, it was like everybody like that was the slasher craze going on. I think it's pretty good, and it's a must see for fans of slashers. Um, but yeah, so as I said, I'm gonna rewatch them. I'll rewatch the Maniac 2, Mr. Robbie, and the Maniac remake. The Maniac 2, Mr. Robbie is like a short film. I don't even, is it 8 minutes long or something? But I'll definitely have a review for that. And anyways, Hawkeye out for now, and thanks for watching.